Alright, so I had no direction for this video originally. It's just gonna be me ranting and talking about this subject. Um, Videos about like microtransactions and YouTubers that have been aligned in this subgenre of ranting about micros and games for service. I just want to admit that I'm so happy. I'm so glad, ecstatic that I'm not one of these YouTubers anymore. And let me explain. This is an entire subgenre. You have your outrage videos over here, and you have your rants about games for service and micros over here, and they sort of like coalesce into one, right? On occasions, people love getting upset at these potential predatory practices because it makes them feel good and it makes them supposedly avoid a bad purchase down the road. Now, because someone has reported on something and they have let me know that yes, this game has X, Y, and Z, games where they have predatory practices and they become readily available to the public, sometimes that could be good news for people who don't want to get duped by having like locked endings, or they have to put in a paywall, or this is our middle finger to the developers so they don't get away with doing this in future games. I completely understand where it's valid. Where it's not valid is where there's micros that have like very mundane effects, like cosmetics, stuff you can grind for with in-game currency, but there's people that want to skip the grind, and then you put something in front of these people from the past, like a fighting game where you had to do specific things to unlock characters, and I bet they would just completely jump into hollow water. Look, if I can still unlock said thing in a game and I don't need the money to completely buy it, then that's totally fine. If I can get stuff through in-game currency and it's still an unlockable regardless, and I want to do the grind to get everything, if I'm a completionist, I will do it. They put in micros to entice the casual gamer who doesn't have the time to sit down and play for numerous hours. They want to unlock this set thing right away. Most of the time, some micros appeal to those people. Anyone willing to put in the time to unlock something, they don't care. Like, I solemnly think that people live in this fantasy land where they think that we are in a time machine and we are going back to the early 2000s where everything wasn't monetized in a game. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that era is over. It's over. And even then, when Xbox came out, like later on down the road, they were monetizing things like Xbox Live and DLC, and that's where it became super popular. That's not to say that post-game content that you pay for is inherently bad, and it can add in replay value, and it can be reasonably priced. For some reason, the people who outrage at microtransactions, they think that's a problem for every single game, and it's fucking not. The star attraction of this argument, the main counterpoint game, will always be Devil May Cry 5. What happened when that game came out? What happened? There was multiple journalists saying that it was going to be trash because you could buy in-game currency in the store like red orbs, you could get all this shit, and honestly, that was for people that are casual gamers, people that don't have the time to spend hours grinding for content. And then people were questioning, why is the grind there in the first place? Well, each DMC game, you had to grind for orbs by simply playing it. That's no excuse, right? That is no excuse. Even in the first Devil May Cry, to get all the moves, you had to grind and play the game. And then you would get in-game currency and you would buy Dante's moves. Air Hike was not available immediately. Stinger, those key moves that Dante knows now, you still couldn't get that in the first Devil May Cry right off Jump Street. People complained about that because there were micros and they were jumping on the bandwagon saying it's trash, false assumptions, everything you could name, it happened with that game. Game came out, Faust Hat was revealed, I grinded, I got like millions and millions of points, I bought all the skills in the game, and if you don't believe me, look at my trophy list. My shit is there. It is facts. It is receipts. It is right there. I have all the skills for each character in the game. If you don't need it, if you have no use for it as a hardcore gamer, there's nothing to complain about for micros. And this is why I don't care about cosmetics. Oh man, when people rant about cosmetics, things that were not in the game, like skins and whatnot, look, I feel like when it comes to microtransactions, there's layers to this shit, right? I understand if you are into finding out if there is a predatory practice in a game and you don't want to buy it. It has scale though. I don't care about some fucking clothes. I don't care about some fucking taunts. I don't care about any of that stuff. It goes double if you can find that stuff in the game, right? Again, the stuff I care for the most is stuff like pay to win, where you're playing a multiplayer game and you pay for something and you get an obvious advantage. That's bullshit. I don't like micros where it's obvious that something is blocking your progress in a game like Shadow of War, when they had that whole, you had to beat this certain orc and you had to be at a certain level. I don't want the plot of my game to be impeded if I pay $60 for a game in order to get a certain level to complete the story. I think that's bullshit. That is something I agree with the users. If something impedes my story progress and I need to get a certain level or I need to buy something to get there, that is BS. But this stuff has scales. This stuff has layers to it. And if a game is a games for service, then that probably doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily a bad thing unless they decide to cut it in chunks and say you have to pay like 70 or 80 bucks to get each part, and they only give you like 8 hours of gameplay at best, and you have to wait to get part 2 for months over and over and over again. I can see the frustration. At least for Final Fantasy VII Remake, you got like a game that got stretched out to like 30 to 50 hours. But that's a JRPG, so you know you were getting your money's worth with that if you are a JRPG fan. However, it is disappointing to the people that wanted the full experience, but that's a whole nother topic entirely, because they said they didn't want to compromise the graphics, all that shit, etc. They wanted to make a full, top tier, $60 AAA game, and if it looked any less, you know people will be complaining about it. Moving on. I'm glad I'm not a microtransaction games for service hater all the time 24/7, because there could be micros in games where I just don't care about the content they're offering, especially Avengers. Avengers has been a prime example. I was the biggest doubter of Avengers. I thought Marvel's Avengers was going to be literally the worst thing I played all year. You look at my feeds, you look at my reactions, you look at my videos. I thought that game was going to be super mediocre. I played the beta. I enjoyed it. I played it with friends. I enjoyed it. I became a believer. What the typical microtransaction or games for service YouTuber does is they outrage, and like I said, outrage YouTubers and microtransaction YouTubers, they sort of coalesce into the same. And they say, well, I can't say anything positive about this game because X, Y, and Z micros, blah, blah, blah. Why is it trash? Why is it the worst thing in the world? I know opinions are subjective, but why do you hate it outside of it just being a game that is a games for service and it has micros? Like, what is the initial problem, and can you pinpoint this? Usually when you go to YouTubers like this and you listen to their reviews, they just say it's boring and they give no details, no descriptions, etc. And I don't think those are real reviews. Like, where is the real constructive criticism? Where is the bugs? Is there bug problems that you had? Can you display them? Can you talk about them? Is there problems with the story? Can you display it? Can you talk about it? Can you educate us? Is there issues with the graphics, performance, frame rate? Anything that isn't about the fucking cosmetic skins or the battle pass. That's what I want to know. That's my real question here. When you listen to these guys talk, do they hate the game for the quality aspects, or do they hate the game because it is a service? And more times than not, 9 times out of 10, they hate it because it's distributed in this way. Most people I seen talk about Avengers, they like it. They like the story. They like where the gameplay was going. It had its own problems, which I assume is gameplay related. And I know every game isn't perfect. When I played this game, when I played the beta, I saw there was performance issues and matchmaking issues. I didn't have a problem with any of the micros. I don't have a problem with the games for service. I would prefer if they came out with free content that was updated over time and new characters, as opposed to saying, well, you gotta pay like 30 to 40 bucks just to get all these characters in Spider-Man and blah blah blah. I would prefer that over paid cosmetics. I'm gonna be real with you. Like where is the temperature? Where is the temperature flow? What are we checking here for these opinions? Like, would you guys literally want paid content to be distributed for like maybe 40 to 50 bucks over paid skins? That doesn't make any sense to choose paid skins over free content and say that's a problem. That makes no fucking sense to me, right? If the game is not a systematically buggy, broken piece of shit on launch and you just got it at early access, which I don't care for early access shit anyway, because you end up getting the situation. If it's like that, then you're simply paying for an early access game that hasn't been completed for 60 bucks, and that's bullshit. However, some skins, some taunts, some animations, some micros, games for service, and then it turns out to be great. I don't care. Like, I don't see an issue there if the game is still good and I can still unlock things normally just with a grind. You know? That's not a problem to me. And I think those microtransactions or games for service haters, they tend to just see that the mundane problem is really the issue when it's really not. Real anti-consumerism happened last generation that was really terrible. Like online passes, fucking locking your endings behind paywalls, and on this DLC. That is real problems compared to a locked skin that you could pay 200 in-game currency for just by playing it. Find where the problem is and cite the actual details. I want to know details about this stuff. If you can't provide it, I will dismiss your claim. It's simple as that. And you see people like, oh god, I got a name drop here, but you see people like Young Yeah. He only does this stuff for the popularity. I don't know if I said his name before earlier or not, but you know, I'm gonna say it again. He said he does it for the popularity, not the passion. He just wants the attention, he wants the fame from that, and he got popular from that. You can't knock the hustle. That's how some people get famous. At the same time, at least double check, fact check, do your research, explain, you know, be very specific about certain things, because if you're not, then it's really hard to take your word for it, because supposedly, from what I heard, when Young Yeah was doing the whole Destiny shit, the Destiny forums, they blew him up for being misinformed a few times. And to his credit, he took the criticism and took those videos down when he was actually wrong about shit. But that's the problem you run into when you try to jump on something really quickly, you don't do enough research, and you fail at the point you're trying to get at, and then you get called out by everyone, and it's an entire shit show. There was people like Dreamcast Guy. He jumped on something different to this effect, but when he tried to say that, you know, here's the PlayStation 5 specs, I don't know where I got them from, I don't know what this information is, before it was actually revealed, he got blown up for being wrong, and he had to take down the video. I feel like these problems can be avoided if people just decide to wait and see on a developing situation. Really. And the main cherry on top is that Young Yeah was really twerking. He was trying to get on that whole Gotham Knight situation when it was alluded to that it might be a games for service, and I think the first games for service title they revealed so far that's official is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. He tried to say Gotham Knights was going to be in the same vein, or alluding that he was going to get on that game for being games for service, and then it turns out that it actually wasn't. They clarified that, saying it wasn't games for service this whole time, and now you have no video to talk about because you tried to jump on that bandwagon yet again, and you turned out to be wrong. This is why I don't outrage over micros. This is why, unless the predatory practice is something that is absolutely asinine, absolutely absurd, something that is ridiculous, like that Nintendo shit with the limited Super Mario 3D World or whatever the fuck that's happening on Switch, where you can't get it after 6 months, that's real anti-consumerism. A product isn't going to be wholly available at launch, and they artificially spiked it, so now the scalpers will have their fun. That's real anti-consumerism. Some skins that don't matter? No. It's just your preference that you want them back in the game, but do they matter to me? No, because it's a cosmetic, and most times they do nothing of value for the gameplay outside of maybe giving you 1 or 2 special moves and just simply looking cool. That's it. That's all a cosmetic is. Is it game breaking? No. Is it pay to win garbage? No. You know, unless it has some special attribute, then we could talk about it. If it doesn't, who cares? Who fucking cares? I don't. I know somebody out there, as the usual outraging micros or games for service people, I know they care. I fucking don't. I'm sorry. I don't. If it is a games for service, and if they have free content as a roadmap later down the line, or content that is good as expansions, guess what? I'm picking it up. If I like it that much, I'm picking it up, because that's what it's for. Developers incentivize you to pick up stuff with more replay value. Is it preferable that a game could come out and be like 50 or 60 hours and that would be totally cool? Sometimes, yeah. Some games that are really long, that had all that content, had stuff in there I really didn't care for, as opposed to certain expansions where they change the map, the enemies, they do all this work that the regular game only does for like a minute or 2, and that's it. You're back on the grind again. I don't mind stuff like new characters that plays different. I don't mind that stuff because it adds to the game. And if you want to support said game, you will support it if it's priced reasonably, and if it is good transactions in the process. So this is why I don't outrage over games for service or micros anymore. I look for legitimately terrible practices, and then I say it's bullshit. When you have to lie, when you have to basically goad your audience into believing said thing is evil without trying it yourself, when you have to say a game is bad just because it is a service, or if it has micros, when you know deep down inside you're having a lot of fun, then maybe you need to start coming clean with your own journalism. Maybe you need to actually be truthful. Because honestly, while people have different experiences, I just cannot fathom playing a good game, a very good fucking game, and only hating it because they had some micros for some skins, or they had a battle pass that I didn't agree with. I would still say the game is great. Look at Mortal Kombat 11 even. I hate the fucking grind in Mortal Kombat 11. I love the gameplay though. I think it's a great Mortal Kombat game, but the grind for that game is absolutely terrible. It is. And I played great games like Devil May Cry 5 where the game is great throughout and the micros does not bother me. This is a case-by-case basis, and I think we all know it, and we all need to accept that it is. This is Renegade Operative signing out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this rant. I know it's like been almost 20 minutes, 20 wings, but hey man, when I go long-winded and when I am passionate about something, I'm gonna speak on it, and I'm so glad I'm not in this spectrum of getting angry and upset over every single micro that comes out and it's irrelevant to me. it doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me. However, it affects other people. So, it affects them to the point where they will downplay an entire game just because of it, even if the micro doesn't affect them. That shit is wild to me. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this video. And once again, like, subscribe, check me out, check out my podcast, The Infinite Ammo Syndicate, and I will see you guys next time. Stay safe from COVID. Later, and peace.